Hi, I'm Kevin, and this is HFX by Bike, a channel all about getting around Halifax by bike. The city has plans to build a new bikeway along Slayter Street in Dartmouth. This 1.3 kilometer long local street would enable safer, more convenient travel around different parts of Dartmouth without the need to navigate to the Weiss Road protected bike lanes towards the harbour and at the edge of Dartmouth itself. But this video isn't about the Slayter Bikeway in its entirety, it's mostly about a particular part and using it to highlight why it's important to get engaged when the city asks for feedback on bike infrastructure projects. The first mention I saw of this city soliciting feedback for the new bikeway was in Dartmouth Council member Sam Austin's newsletter. And one of the things that jumped out at me was the proposed south connection, linking the Dahlia Bikeway to Slayter via Pine Street. If you're watching this just after the Dahlia Bikeway Let's Fix video, you may remember that Pine Street is an incredibly steep local street that intersects with Dahlia, but just how steep probably isn't obvious. So for science, I trekked out to Dartmouth and tried to bike up Pine Street towards Slayter. I'm doing this with a can-do attitude, but more importantly, I'm doing it with an e-bike, which means that every time I turn the pedal, an electric motor helps me move. And nope, I even tried serpentining my way up the last little bit, but I still stalled out, even on an e-bike. I'm sure it's possible for someone to bike up Pine, but I'd be surprised if more than 10% of the population can do it on a good day. But maybe that's just a consequence of local geography. The entire area is pretty hilly, so maybe Pine is just the least bad option for getting bikes between the two bikeways. Well, not exactly. Strava is a popular app that cyclists use to track their rides, and this produces a wealth of data about preferred routes for getting around different parts of the city. If we look at the biking heat map for the area, we can see that Pine sees very few bikes. Even though there's not a lot of car traffic, it's basically unbikeable for most people. Victoria sees a bit more bike traffic, but it's still pretty quiet. The real north-south connector for bikes is on Maple, which shouldn't be that surprising because of all the streets connecting Dahlia to Thistle, Maple has the shallowest climb. While I was in Dartmouth, I also climbed Maple for science, and it's fine. It's a little bit on the steep side, but most cyclists can probably make that climb, if maybe a bit slowly. Dealing with traffic on the hill can be a little dangerous for bikes, but that's it. Otherwise, it's very doable. So, by appearances, the city seems to be gearing up to paint some sharrows on an unbikeable surface and then call it a day. Is there an alternative to this? Yeah, and it's actually pretty simple. Maple is a one-lane each-way minor collector with total space between curves of about 8 meters. There's not enough space for the 2 lanes and any configuration of bike lanes to coexist, and turning Maple into a bikeway would make it not work as a major road for cars, at least if you do it right. So here's the elevator pitch for an alternative. A bidirectional protected bike lane on the east side of Maple running between Dahlia and Thistle, reducing Maple to southbound only for cars. How wide would the bike lane need to be? Let's actually just make it 5 meters. That would make it the widest bike lane in the city by a pretty wide margin, and here's the rationale. This bike lane would exist to help get bikes up Maple towards Thistle, and people's speed uphill is going to vary a lot based on individual ability. That extra space allows for the option of passing while still allowing bikes traveling down Maple to do so at speed. The side benefit is that it drastically narrows the southbound car lane in Maple, encouraging drivers moving through the neighborhood to do so at lower speeds. As a bonus, it would actually make a lot of sense to just extend this bike lane all the way down past Dahlia to Ochterlony, because there's a multi-use path waiting on the other side of that road that would enable direct connections to places like downtown Dartmouth, the ferry terminal, and major job and commercial centers in the area. Or we could just paint some sharrows on an unbikeable side street. It's really hard to tell which would be better. The city will be holding open information sessions for the Slayter Bikeway at the Zatzman Sportsplex in Dartmouth on Wednesday, May 29th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I would encourage you to find some time to head over and give your feedback on how to make this design better, because when it's left to its own devices, the city tends to design its bike infrastructure primarily for the benefit of drivers. That's it for this one. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.